We can wait.
It's very, even if she is not well, she has agreed to come and join the discussion with today's interact with our students this evening. Thank you so much, ma'am, for joining this live session. And yeah, I request all our participants also to restrict strictly to 1 hour. So by 8 we will, because keeping in view ma'am's health also, we should cooperate in this regard today. And ma'am will give the just only for 10 or 15 minutes, and then we will in more time will be allocated for interaction. So ma'am, can we start the session, ma'am?
Yeah, sure. Good evening, one and all. Respected Madam Dr. Saroja ji and Dr. Indira and other senior faculty of BRAU, and my dear friends and my dear students. Welcome to all to this today's interactive session. At the outset, I would like to say that we have already discussed about stress, and you have been hearing about stress, sources, causes, many issues since I think quite some time. Am I audible?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, okay. If there is any issue, please let me know. And we have been talking about stress. We have seen various aspects of stress. And today is the day when we will be learning how to deal with this stress. In today's fast moving society or fast-paced modern life, all of us are experiencing stress in everyday life. WHO has considered stress as the health epidemic of 21st century. And as you all know, and we all know, that stress has become part and parcel of our everyday life. It has become a natural human condition. With today's scenario of COVID, in addition to other factors, has added stress to our lives. It has led to our existential peril, and we are already, all of us are under stress. Now, stress is caused in everyday life due to many factors. One is our time deadlines, competing schedules, competing priorities, and one major issue that has become part and parcel of everybody's life is amassing wealth. That is another issue which is causing stress. Now, having understood many sources, causes, external, internal, and symptoms, signs, and reactions to stress, today we will be learning about how to deal with the stress, how to cope with the stress. So it is not really good to live in stress because it can impact adversely on our health. So we will learn how to cope and deal with this stress so we are calm and comfortable and disease free. Now, first of all, I would like to request all the participants to just feel free, be calm, composed. In today's session, we are going to even practice. One second, just practice how to deal with stress. So I do not want you to be under stress while having this session. First of all, just be relaxed, sit calm and composed in your seats wherever you are sitting. Be comfortable and feel free to ask anytime anything you feel like asking or saying, suggesting. Everybody is similar, so don't hesitate, feel comfortable. So at the outset, I would like to say that please feel free, which means I'm trying to tell you to please close your eyes and sit back for a few minutes, sit back keep your things off, be comfortable, be relaxed, sit back, and tell in your mind, let all parts of my body be calm and composed. Let all parts of my body be relaxed. Let my mind and body be calm and relaxed. Say this quietly in your mind and let all parts feel free. Sit back in your chairs and also perceive and say, let all parts of the body fall on the chair. Let all parts of the body be calm and composed. Just 1 or 2 minutes. So if all have joined doing this, now we start with being calm. Let us not be stressful when we have to learn about how to deal with stress. So this words one can speak, tell to oneself at any time when you are under stress, whether you are students going for an interview or an exam, or sometimes we are under stress and we don't get sleep. Also, then you say these lines few times in your mind with your closed eyes and feel, experience, not just say. You should experience that calmness and composedness, and also let all the parts fall on the bed when you're sleeping. And if you're sitting or standing, let all the parts fall on the chair or wherever you are. You have to perceive this, experience this, then you'll feel so light and loose. You'll feel so comfortable. Ah, there is no stress. That is what we need to learn how to. There are many techniques to do that. So just to start, as we have already seen, stress is worry, tension. It's as if something is on our head, pressure. We are all the time carrying some pressure on head. And we have also learned this, just a recap of what we have already learned, that there are many sources of stress, internal and external, and can be stress at work. There can be lifestyle stresses. Sometimes, yes, major events in life, loss of a loved one, loss of our health, disability, accident takes place, all that can be sources. Then the stress can be eustress, positive stress. Stress is not all bad. I don't think if we had no stress, we would have grown up to this stage. Now there is so much advancement in technology and science. It is all because sometimes there is some amount of anxiety and stress, which helps us. Stress is useful, beneficial. It is fabric of life. It is spice of life. Positive stress helps us to perform, to reach peak performance, motivate us. It leads to self-growth and self-improvement. Hence, let's not see stress only as negative, what we call as EU stress, which is positive stress, and distress is negative stress, which we don't know how to deal with. Then it becomes negative, and then it have an adverse impact on our health. And we have also looked at, there is something called acute stress. When you really are in a situation where you are attacked by some external factor, or you are trapped by a situation where you find you can't get out of it, then if it is lived for a short time, like exams or an interview or a stage. Suppose now madam asks one of you to come on the stage and give a talk. So there will be some amount of stress. Then stress varies from people to people. How people, it is not perceived similarly by all individuals. For one person, it is a very exciting, stimulating situation to come and give a talk at the stage, now unprepared. For other person, it may be stressful. So people perceive stress in different ways. For some, it is stimulating. For some, it is challenging. For some, it is negative. It causes anxiety. So, and stress is, it is likely to happen to all people of all ages, socioeconomic strata, any group, any gender. We all face stress. Now, as I said, that acute stress, if it is, and you solve the problem, you feel very excited and rewarding. But if that continues for long, it becomes chronic, and we find there is no way out. Then it is stress, where tears. It is a wear and tear of body, mind, and spirit. Now, my dear friends, as I said, there are many sources of stress, internal and external. Similarly, there are many possibilities of stress management. There are many strategies of coping. Now, stress management strategies can be internal and external. If the stress is from the external situation, we have to reduce the external environment, the situation. We have to either alter the situation or we have to deal with the situation. And if it is internal is because of our own perceptions, our own rigid thinking, our own cognitive distortions. It can be. So we need to change our perception, change our thinking. Then there are various coping mechanisms to deal with the stress. Coping means conscious effort to minimize or tolerate or have a mastery over a stressful situation and solve our own personal and interpersonal problems of everyday life. Now, coping also, there are many mechanisms, coping mechanisms. Adaptive coping is where you solve the problem and it is beneficial to your health and also you are stress free. Now, it can be maladaptive coping, which are not really solving the problem. You are escaping the situation. You are avoiding the stress. But someday or the other, it again becomes cumulative and again we have to face it. So there can be reactive coping. We react to a stressor. It can be proactive coping. We prevent a stressor. So there can be different kinds of coping. Adaptive coping is solution to the problem. Examples of adaptive coping are taking social support, relaxing exercises, as I was telling you right now, relaxation, meditation, physical exercises, yoga, many of the techniques, counseling, psychotherapies are the adaptive coping mechanisms. Maladaptive is most of the time we want to avoid. So what people do is get into risk-taking behaviors or get into self-soothing unhealthy behaviors like alcohol, drinking, smoking, or self-harm, suicides. All these are maladaptive. Humor is considered to be another very good adaptive technique for reducing the stress. So you laugh it at the problem rather than looking as if the problem is very big. Then there can be other coping strategies. I'll just mention briefly. That is, it can be appraisal focus strategies, coping mechanisms, which means whenever there is a stressful situation, we generally have a lot of misinterpretations of that situation and sometimes perceptions are wrong. So reappraise the situation. For example, if somebody sees if a woman sees her husband talking very closely to another woman, or a girl sees her boyfriend talking to another girl, the immediate thinking very closely or romantically, the thinking is, yeah, he's cheating me, he's deceiving me. But it may be something about very serious issue they are talking, and it may not be, our assumptions may not be correct. Our first perception is that causes stress to ourselves because of our own assumption. Misinterpretation of the situation is major cause of the stress. So reappraise, challenge the situation, find the correct facts, and then look at how to solve it. So this is appraisal focused strategy, coping mechanism. Problem focused coping mechanism is another coping mechanism, which means confront the problem head on. If there is a problem, we have to resolve the problem. How do we do? Problem solving techniques we have to use, which means identify the problem, name the problem, write down the problem, and also write down alternative solutions, look at pros and cons, and see what is the best solution, and action. It should be action oriented. So these are problem solving coping mechanisms. Then there can be solution focused coping mechanisms. For example, there are some situations we find we can't change our situations in our life. But if we try and look at in depth, what is that small change we can make in our life? It may be the way we live, it may be the way we interact, it may be the way we talk to the child. It can be any of those situations which are become major stresses. Particularly in marriage, this happens, marital disharmony, because it may be an assumption something is wrong, or it can be a small problem, small issue which is creating problem. I was told by one of the woman that my husband keeps the toothpaste on the dining table, and she is very cleanliness obsessive about it, and she gets mad on that. See, it's a small issue, keeping a toothpaste on the dining table, but that causes a lot of one friction to the other. It can cause a lot of frictions. So what is required is to understand, change one situation. If you, in our lives, if we change one, make a small change sometimes in our life, one situation, a series of changes take place and the whole life situation changes. So we have to look for that opportune time and opportune activity which can be changed. So that becomes solution focused coping strategies. Then there is emotion focused coping strategies. Most of the stresses cause lot of emotional consequences like anxiety, stress, depression, going into suicide. So these stress situations need to deal with emotions, which means we have to change our emotions, look at the positive aspect of it rather than the negative aspect. So these are some of the coping strategies and manage stress management strategies. My dear friends, what we need to do is, we all are facing stress. We have to find the possibility of managing the stress, coping with it, deal with it, and be stress free, enjoy life, have happy life, meaningful life. Then we will be functioning effectively. We will be growth oriented. We'll develop. We'll have self enhancement, self actualization, only if we make our minds stress free. So I put forward this to the group. You are free to ask questions, you are free to make comments, and if you have any issues, your personal issues, also you can discuss. Yes, floor is with you now.
Yes, anybody wants to clear their doubts, you can ask ma'am. I'm sure you have gone through the videos of module 5 and learned the various coping mechanisms you have. If you have any doubts regarding any of these techniques also, you can interact with ma'am. Now this session is open for interaction.
Good evening, ma'am.
Yes.
Like always, Usha Oya, ma'am. It's like a pleasant meeting. Like this kind of interaction sessions, it is very helpful for us. Actually, in this module, we have means like in the appraisal focused coping. There is a topic in the coping mechanism system, like appraisal coping, like how one can adapt by avoiding the stresses, by keeping oneself from the distancing from the stressor, because avoiding the stressor is itself is saying a negative coping mechanism. Then again, the another version of it is appraisal focused coping, which is adaptive cognition. In this strategies, people always think on their ways of denying their problems, and they always keep distancing oneself from the stressor. So how this is these statements, it is like a contradictory statements, like at the same time there is a some thin borderline in between these two statements. We just wanted to know about it.
Yeah. I think it was not very clearly audible, but whatever I have heard, I'll answer. And then you can again repeat if something is left. What you are asking is appraisal focused coping. Am I right? Hello?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. See, I was trying to tell in short because I wanted to leave more time for you rather than me talking, because it's already given in the record classes. Acha, see, appraisal focused coping is that, as I said, what we do is we appraise a situation, a stressful situation, depending on our internal personality factors and our own perception. Actually, stress is self-generated. Stress is not just created by the external environment. It is self-generated. How we perceive a situation, that much amount of stress we experience. So whenever we see a stressful situation or experience, for example, let's take an example, common example of now madam telling you to write a test. After this class, she wants you to write a test. Okay. She has not asked you in advance, so you are not very well prepared. But after the session, I'm giving an example. Don't start getting anxious. So, for example, madam will tell you to write a test, the marks of which will be evaluated and given in your summative evaluation. Okay. Now, what happens if she announces that at the end of the session, you have to write a test? What it is going to happen? Quite a few of us will experience anxiety. Some will feel too much anxiety if you don't know anything about it. Some will feel mild anxiety. Some will feel stressed out. Now, what is that? This is a stressful situation. I'm just given an example, simple example. It can be serious example, as I was telling you. If you are a student or a young person, you are close to someone, your boyfriend, he's in the evenings going for walk with you every day, but one day you are seeing him talking very closely to another girl and going for walk with that other girl. Can be boy, girl, it can be anything. I'm just giving an example. Or writing the test is another example. So when you see somebody, the moment you see the boy going with other person, with other girl and talking very closely, looks like he is talking very closely. So what happens to you, who is supposed to be his girlfriend? What is the reaction? It is a painful reaction in the sense, oh, he is cheating me. He is now in love with somebody else. So he is cheating me. It is our appraisal of the situation. How you are evaluating that situation. Somebody may think he's cheating. Somebody may think, no, let me watch for a long time what he'll do at the end of the walk. Will he go with her somewhere? Or somebody may think, what exactly happened? Why he is suddenly behaving like this? So there are different perceptions of the same situation depending on our own perception, our own sense of security. If the girl who is seeing this is feeling very insecure, is basically that person is an insecure person, will react profoundly to this situation. Oh, I've been deceived, because you have your self-esteem low. So I've been deceived. This world is wicked. Earlier also I was deceived, ditched by one boy. Again, this is happening. So my life is useless. This is our appraisal of that situation. But appraisal focused coping means reappraise the situation. Look at the situation in a different way, which means find out facts. Here you need to reappraise, means you have to find the truth, not react like this. Suddenly that my life is useless, I am worthless, and nobody is friendly in this world. Like this, instead of reacting or going and hitting him, it may be somebody gets very aggressive, goes and hits that person or the girl. Why you are behaving like this? These are the stories which happens in hostels. That's why I'm based on those stories, I'm telling this example. So this is the appraisal or perception of that particular person, depending on one's own self-confidence, one's own self-esteem, one's own sense of security. See, if you have a good sense, self-esteem, good sense of security, you will not appraise the situation in such a deceptive way. You will not evaluate the situation in this. This is why it is called, it is our perception of the stress. Now, Okay, reappraisal means, appraisal focus means, now I have a problem. I am seeing my boyfriend behaving this. I have to solve the problem. How you will cope with this problem is, let us find out the facts. Let me watch whether what is happening. And then maybe at the end of it, I can go and talk to him and find out what exactly was happening. Then you may come to know at the end of this, it was your interpretation of the situation. It was your appraisal of the situation. Your misperception could be perception or misperception. And he says that at the end of the, when you go and talk to him, he says that she has recently, her mother has gone into COVID, mother is hospitalized, and she was feeling very bad. She was crying. So I told her, come, let's go out. I'll keep talking to her. So I was trying to calm her down. I was trying to help her. So see, the situation is not all that stressful. So it is appraisal focused coping means reappraisal of the situation and look at the assumptions and interpretations. What you have done may be wrong. So you have to rethink. Most of the time, our assumptions of the situation, our interpretations are wrong. So that needs to be re-evaluated. That is called appraisal focused coping strategy. So once here you talk to the boy, you came to know, so your problem is solved. He's not left you, he's still friendly with you. He was trying to help someone. There's nothing harm when someone seriously need help. Now, same is if ma'am tells you to write an exam at the end. Now, as I said, some people will have butterflies in the stomach. Some people will fall sick also. Will ask, ma'am, excuse ma'am, my head is aching. I have a diarrhea. Things like that will happen. It is the interpretation of the situation, how stressful it is. Some people will say, it's okay, whatever I feel, I can write. I think I can do something. So it is different people perceiving the same situation with a different degree of stress. And most of this perception is based on our own self-generated, our own views, our own assumptions, our own personality style. So that is where we need to help ourselves by looking at our own assumptions. So this is how is appraisal focused coping. Yeah.
Ma'am,
If I heard this much, I don't know, you
can
have
I
asked
ask, ma'am?
something else.
Yeah,
Yes.
can I continue this, ma'am? Actually, things are not so straight, ma'am. So even if I go to my boyfriend, if, for example, let's say, and ask him to tell the truth, he may be hiding something and he may be talking only partially something true, but maybe most of the time they hide the facts. Then convincing ourselves that my interpretation is not correct one, and is that going to solve the problem, ma'am? So,
No.
or will it increase the stress?
Yeah, good, very good. You have continued. That's good. See, now this is, if there was, you try to find the facts. That is one thing. For reappraisal, you need to find the facts, and he must have told you a story that
Yes.
about her mother's thing, which may not be true. As you rightly said, things are not so straight. But all situations are not so bad also. Sometimes it's a straight situation. We make it complicated. Most of the time it happens like that way also. But right, let's assume here this boy is really fallen in love with her and he is trying to be friendly, but to avoid cross with you, he said, no, this, he gave you a story. It's perfectly fine. You have listened to the story. Now what you are going to do? Fact finding. You will also be trying to find out from her what happened. Is it true? After some time, you will come to know whether he's really ditching you or he's a genuine person. So suppose it is true that he is not a genuine person. He's really fallen in love with the other girl as well, and but he was trying to patch up. Now, what is that? This appraisal focus you tried, it didn't work. Now, what you have to cope with the stress. You can't live in the stress and keep crying and have these fits, and you are not going to spoil your life. Now, you have to do is either you first is emotion focus, because you will be emotionally very down. You will be very upset when your boyfriend is deceiving you and having good time with the other girl. You obviously, this will cause a havoc on your emotions. So you have to deal with the emotion focused coping, which means emotion focused coping is emotionally you have to see the problem, how to handle it. Now, for some time, yes, you'll be gravely hurt, you'll be crying, you'll be very upset, but that means emotion focused, problem focused. You have to solve the problem. You can't live under stress. Now, what you have to see is, if I keep crying, am I able to help? This happens. I have seen girls or boys sitting in their rooms and crying. I think I gave that example of one boy in my own course who didn't want to write the exam. Okay, I'll give that example also, but let me first answer your question. So you will keep crying, you'll not eat, your friends will come and tell you, don't worry, he's like that, why are you crying? Don't cry. After some time, if you start realizing, it needs some time because healing will take some time. After that, you have to now see how you have to solve the problem. Then it becomes problem focus. Confront the problem head on. Avoiding problem does not solve, which means you have to now solve source of the problem. The source is this the boy or the girl? Does not mean you can remove them. That is not removing the source of the problem. Now, if I were to help you out, I would have, or if you can do self-analysis, you have to think, who is at wrong? Say you are suffering. You are suffering because why you are crying? Why you are feeling upset? That is, you are suffering, you are hurt. Why? At your loss. You feel you lost him. So you are crying at your deprivation. You are crying at your spilt milk. Now, this is what is problem focused and coping. Now, I have to analyze the problem. Now, why I am crying, I am hurt is because it is the anger on that girl, anger on the boy. But basically, if you analyze, you'll find you feel you are deprived, you are at loss, and you are crying for that. Now, in case, basically, when you look at the problem focus, where is the problem? Who is at wrong? The boy or the other girl? Not you. Why should I suffer when they are at wrong? I did not tell him, you may analyze. Did I hurt him earlier? What happened earlier? Did he say that he is going to break up? What were my mistakes? What I did? Yes, that also you will know. But overall, if you see, it is his problem or the other girl's problem, not my problem. Then why should I suffer? They should suffer. Most of the time, in such situations, one person who is cheated upon goes and commits suicide. I have seen many girls telling me, my end of life, I want to commit suicide. I ask him, who should commit suicide? He or the other girl, not me. And if they really are in love, what happens is they want to get rid of you. And you are giving your enemy the chance to enjoy life. I will go away, you enjoy life. Exactly what you don't want to do. This is what you don't want. You don't want the opponent to win. But by committing suicide, by remaining depressed, by not writing the exam, by not eating food, you are giving the enemy a good time. And you are suffering, whereas it is not your fault. So this is what is problem analysis. Problem focus is when you have a problem, analyze the problem correctly. Fact finding first, then what is the problem? Analyze. Identify where is the problem. Is it because I did something wrong, or because he is like that, or she is the one who must have hooked him? So identify and name the problem. Where is the problem? Once you know the problem very well, then it is easy to find alternative solutions. What is the solution here? No, I am not going to suffer. I'm not going to cry. Neither I am going to kill myself. I have to solve the problem. Which means now you have emotionally got out of it. So it is easy for you to handle the problem. Which means now step by step, identify, name the problem, find solutions, alternative solutions. Should I go and talk to him properly and make him understand this is not the way he should do? Let me try. Or should I talk to that girl? Only when you are emotionally fit, you can do this. If you are emotionally crying, depressed, suicidal, you can't do this. So you can't solve the problem. So then you will think of alternative solutions. Then there are many chances. I have seen such situations where they have either talked to the boy or talked to the girl. But if the situation is that he doesn't like you anymore and he likes her, then also you have to resolve the problem. Fine. You don't need to suffer for that person. So you will understand pros and cons. Okay, talking, does it work? As you said, problems are not so straight. It may not work. Then there are times when they have involved the parents, because parents also knew they were about to get married, the first one, you and the boy. So they involve the parents, then they have some discussion, and sometimes the problem is solved, but sometimes it is not solved because that boy and girl now are more thicker than the, which means you have to analyze your love for him is greater than his love for you. Your need is greater for him than his need for you. Then should you be repenting or regretting for life? Because as I said, you have to understand it's deprivation of my need. His need is different. He's having his need fulfilled, which is not wrong. So these have to be analyzed. This involves emotion focus, reappraisal focus. It also involves what is called as problem focus. When you are looking at problem, it is a problem solving technique. Then you will be able to solve the problem. And what we tell is, whenever there is such situation, when like boyfriend, girlfriend, or some emotional situation, we should deal with what we have said last time. Mind has three aspects. Cognitive component is thinking, emotional component is feeling, cognitive component is behavior, action. So our mind is like that. It has thinking, feeling, and behaving. All the three. Human beings work simultaneously with all the three. Human beings think, feel, and act, behave. So what happens? Most of the time we think and do things, but in situations of love, hate, anger, this thinking component doesn't come. We feel, our feeling component dominates, and then we become depressed. So we need to, in counseling, what we do is deal with emotions. Now, in a situation where this situation example I gave you, if you were in that situation, I as a counselor or you yourself has to deal with your emotions. Once your emotions settle down, then thinking comes, then the problem solving technique comes. Then you start understanding how to solve the problem. So it has to be solved. Either he continues to be friendly with you and you are going to get married to him, or he is going to give up, break up, and then he is friendly with it. Some solution has to come. It comes only when we have dealt with our emotions and try to understand the problem, analyze, and find step by step how to, which means alternative solutions. What are pros, what are cons, what is advantage, what is disadvantage. Okay, then now thinking is clear, so action can be taken. My dear friends, whenever we have problems, generally we become emotional. No, let emotions, if it is there, deal with emotions. If there is any problem, think and act. Thinking is important. If you think, you will know what to speak, you will know what to act. But what we do is, when we have problem, we just go for action. We just throw things, we pull things, we shout, we become aggressive. So that is where the solution doesn't. Yeah, I'll stop here and let you talk. Yes.
Yes, ma'am. Very, you have explained it in a very easy way. And we should not get over with our emotions, but we should analyze things and then use our thinking, trigger our thinking in such situations.
And dealing with emotions is very important, because
And
when we are emotionally ruled, See, for example, ma'am, like if most of the youngsters have these issues, boyfriends, and they want to marry that one particular boy or girl, and parents will be telling, no, this boy has so many defects, this girl is not good, whatever, whatever you try to see, if the match is not as per parents' perspective, is not good. So parents keep advising. We keep advising. What we are doing is we are using the cognitive component, but their emotion component is on the top. So first we should deal with emotions. That's why I told you also, this girl, that you first deal with emotions. Let the emotions settle down. Because when we are emotional, we can't think properly. So we have to, counseling means we deal with emotions. Because a person is overwhelmed, overridden by emotions. So if you do self-analysis also, all of us can do. We don't need to always depend on somebody. Self-analysis, sit quietly, sit in peacefully in your room, close the room, and analyze the whole situation, what happened. And if you be true to your emotions, you feel like crying because you lost him, cry. Cry as much as you want, which means you'll get, then you're dealing with emotions. You feel like thrashing him, you feel that. You don't go and thrash. Action nahi, feel, deal with emotions. 2-3 days, if you do this self-analysis, emotions will heal, emotions will calm down. Then your thinking will come by itself. You will start thinking. That is where problem solving step by step has to be done, and you can solve the problem. All problems have to be resolved. It may be that it is in your favor or not is a different issue, but until we solve the problem, we feel the stress.
Right. Any other students want to react? So Trupti Reddy has
Good evening, ma'am.
raised her hand. Yeah, please, Trupti. Good
Ma'am,
evening.
in a scenario where whether it's a marriage or just a partnership, live normal relationship,
Can,
if the girl
can
is,
you be a little louder?
yeah, ma'am, in a relationship, whether it's a marriage or just a regular relationship,
Hmm.
if a girl is emotionally attached to the person, despite of knowing that it is an abusive relationship, mentally and physically, and yet if she's not able to come out of that relationship, how do we help her out?
Yeah, I think this is very common. What you have said is a common thing. Even if one knows it is abusive relationship, or one knows it is one-sided, or one person only is suffering and the other person is enjoying, it can be many facets to that relationship, but one is involved, emotionally involved. And then it is very difficult to come out of it. Very true. But this is where you need counseling. Counseling can help you. It is, as I said, it can be self-analysis, self-help, self-counseling. Sometimes you need help from an external source. If you have a good friend, if you have a good understanding, trustworthy friend or a relative or a stranger or a teacher, you can talk to them. It can heal. It is not that one doesn't come out. These are relationship issues. If you are, it takes time. I have seen girls um, coming over, taking 9 months, a year, or sometimes it is fast. Once you, depending on, as I said, personality of each individual. If you feel, sometimes one is so emotionally involved that you don't see anything else except that relationship, and you know that it is abusive or the other person is cheating, still it is very hard to come out of it once you are emotionally involved. You are so much involved, and anything without that looks miserable. Am I right? Anything
Yeah,
without that person looks like
yeah,
life lost.
yes,
Nothing is good.
yes.
You have a job to attend, you may have some meeting to attend, but nothing works, nothing. That that thought only keeps coming, that thought. I have seen this uh,
When, yeah,
experiences.
yeah,
So it takes some time, but it needs counseling. It needs, for such cases, sometimes you need external help. But that also counseling does not one session it takes. It takes lot of time to understand what all has happened in the relationship. It takes time to accept for the person that I am at wrong.
Ma'am, despite knowing that that person is a repeated offender, constantly keeps cheating on the person emotionally, and tries to always demean her verbally and degrade her in front of her kids.
Yeah.
Despite the counseling, despite all the family and friends counseling her to get out of the relationship, she's emotionally attached to the person for no good reason, no valid reason. Because financially, also, the person is quite independent. Despite being, in a very good career place, also, just because of they're emotionally attached to this person, they literally ruin their life along with their child's.
Mhm.
So I think a long-term counseling is the
No,
only.
it takes time, as I said, to see if you are emotionally, let's take any of our own selves, emotionally into a person, emotionally involved. You have lived or you how many years, time is not important, but emotions are important at depth. Even if it is hurtful, you still want that person only. That sort of thing it happens. I know of such situations. So what happens is it's very difficult, no matter what somebody says. You are seeing yourself hurt, you are seeing your child being hurt, you know that everything is you are spoiling your own life. You understand that because you have a good intelligent mind, you understand, but still somewhere that emotions does not allow you to separate out from that person. Now here there is what is required is in-depth counseling, is that how one sees self. See, self, it is related to self. The concept of self, how it is. Which if it is the concept of self, by self is not there, then this thing happens. What is happening, madam, is that we all in this present modern day world is what we are doing. We are not really developing our culture has all these things, our Indian culture, but somehow in our schools present day or even in our homes, we are not building our internal source of wealth. That is self. Self is not being enhanced. If we always have internal source of wealth, come any type of tsunami. See, these relationships will have its own meaning up to an extent. Not that you can't live without it. But now the situation, what you are telling, I know of persons, I know of girls who almost lived in this situation for a year. For there is one girl who came to me. She said, "I'm going to end my life. I have already enjoyed with him. With him, my life is over." She is very conscious about it, and she says, and he has decided to marry someone else. She was in Dubai, and parents brought her here. Only the thing is, she
Yeah.
has very vocally said, "I am going to commit suicide. I am going to end my life any day," because for me there is nothing more. I've enjoyed with him. My life is over. I've seen the best days of my life. Now, end of it. Now, rationally, if you think, what do you say?
It's
It
so
is. It
easy
is
for
not
him.
rational.
No, it's so easy for the guy to just dispose a person.
Yeah.
But whereas it takes a lifetime for the person to regain the self-confidence and all that.
Yes. 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 That is why I said it takes time, and it takes the depth of self evolving. See, somewhere our self is weak. All of me have a very good self concept, self confidence, self, but somewhere inside, it could be an experience of your childhood. So
Yeah.
we go into psychoanalytic also, psychoanalysis. It could be the deprivation of somebody who was very close, gave a traumatic experience. So self by itself cannot be there. It has to be with somebody, with some. And then that love is so great. When you are telling me, I have seen this type of situations. And it was so difficult to get the person out. All the days crying, any festival crying, anything that, because the person is not interacting, got married. This is another girl from Dubai, the other girls I'm saying. So that, but it took some time.
This is too much.
It took some about 10, I think about a year, I should say, for that person to recover. Finally, she recovered. And she first was not deciding to get married because she was involved. And any boy would come, she would compare with that boy and see. She would say no, because nobody fits into that framework, because you love that person. So it is not really rationalism, it is the love, the emotions. But after a year, yes, now she is married, yes, to another boy. It took too much time, and I should say that it required a lot of in-depth counseling. And sometimes we have to go into psychoanalysis to know whether it is something related to early childhood experiences, which could have been traumatic. When somebody left, it can be, we don't know. We have to analyze each individual separately. But it is difficult. I fully agree with you, appreciate your point. It is not that easy to remove a person out of intense love or relationship. But sometimes, yes, there are cases who came to me saying, I want to commit suicide, or I want to marry that person and my mother, it's a religion change or something. Then it has taken 1 or 2 sessions also, and I just deal with emotions. I don't do any advising or thing. I deal with emotions. Once emotions settle down, like for example, advocate woman, because I take classes for the advocates, she came. She had problem with her husband. She said, I want to, one day she came, she has been discussing, but one day she said, I've decided now I want to walk off the room with a grown-up girl, and I don't want to live with him anymore. I said, fine, there's nothing wrong. If you have reached that stage, fine. First is my listening. I have to empathize and listen to the person. Not, I'm just telling in a sentence, but for an hour or so, you have to listen all the issues. She would here and there, this problem, that problem. Fine. At the end, I asked, okay, fine. You are leaving the home and going where? She said, no, I have not planned. I don't know where I have to go. She is decided she is not going to a parent's place. Okay, then where? Have you taken have you planned where to go? No, I have not planned. Then we had to have another session for some time, and it then she herself said at the end of the session, I think it's better to live with him. I didn't tell him. So it is their own, when the thinking comes, reasoning comes to themselves. So it is sometimes just 1 session or 2 sessions that works. But sometimes, yeah, the kind of problem you have narrated, one of you just now, it takes time. But if you continue to help the person, it can be resolved. It gets resolved.
So in basically we have to instill self-confidence in oneself, and then we have to be good listeners without any judgment.
More of it is you help the individual to have the self security, sense of self confidence, sense of self that self-sufficiency. Self-sufficiency. So self-development is very important. If they start having concept of self-sufficiency, self-strength, that inner wealth, inner resource, I have myself, I can live, then attachment to other person also can be left. But first, coming out of that, once you mingle like this with the other person, that you are inseparable, that becomes an issue. But every individual is individual. Two people have come from different sources, different environments, different parents, different lives. So that self, if you help them to evolve, to have more strength of self, then they see themselves as capable.
And
So
then they can,
I don't need him.
and then
I
they
can
can
manage.
navigate. They can
Then you
navigate
can think of planning, having relation with other person. Only when you are cut from that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you very much.
Yeah, really, I should thank ma'am for the very elaborately explaining the real, with the help of the real situations, giving illustration of the real cases. And I also have comments from Jeevan Kumar saying that great explanation, ma'am. Happy to attend this session. And even Bharat said, elaborately and easily explained by madam. Thank you so much, ma'am. And there are also questions, but I
Any more
promised.
questions? I'm willing to
No,
take.
ma'am, there are several questions. Many more questions are there, but I can sense that your son is getting really tense of you talking for a very long time, because
Can
recently
you
have come
summarize
out
this
recovered
question
from
so
the
that I can
illness.
answer?
Yes,
Some
you
of-
can. Recently, you have come out of this illness, and I'm sure your son is also getting very restless. Also, he is getting stressed. So I don't want to bother you. Take more of your time. As promised, we will end the session on time today. And we will have many more sessions in future, so that I expect all our friends to join. Some other, we will plan for other courses also. They may
Sure,
join and
sure.
get a chance to interact with you. Thank you so much, ma'am. And thanks everyone for your active participation.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you very
I'm
much.
so
Thank you.
pleased to
Thank you
interact
so much,
with the
ma'am.
Yeah,
with the
thank you, ma'am.
participants,
Thank you
whoever
very much.
asked the question. It was real questions. I was in it. It was real experience.